Alrighty, I'm back with yet another video. Been a couple days since one of these, but we are back. Singled out episodes like 5 or something. Today, we are going to be talking about the Mustang, as you can see from the title, the Mustang GT350R. Now, you may be asking, well, last week you did the Mustang GT. Why don't you just talk about it then? Well, anyone ever watch Patch Notes, then that's our podcast kind of style video at the end or at the beginning of the week. We're still deciding on what day to put it as. But as of right now, obviously it was Monday. We are going to reveal the list for next week, and every one of these weeks are going to be kind of specific to a certain type of car. This week, American sports cars, or American track cars. So, even though we did the GT, we wanted to do its specific track variant, so GT350R. Now, Mustang's on a bit of a high right now. It's doing really well. It's got a lot of things going for it, just not so much, as I've mentioned before, at the top end. But that should be changing soon. But for right now, what does it have? It's got the GT350R, which is a very, very cool vehicle. Just right off the bat, 526 torque, and then, was it 426, somewhere in the 400s 526 horsepower, 400-ish torque. I know the torque was a little bit less. And price range is around, that's a hard one because the MSRP is around like 56, 60 grand, but you won't find one for that low of a price, right? An MSRP is technically just a recommended amount for the car to be sold at, but a dealer can sell it for whatever it wants. So, if there's a shortage of those cars, and they know they're rare, and they know that people want them, they can sell them for a lot more, which they do. So, a lot of times you see them being sold for 80 grand, stuff like that. It's, if you really want a track-oriented Mustang, 80 grand is still probably worth it. I mean, they're still being sold. So, not too many people are feeling gypped out by the price or anything, but that's just what it is. No way to get around it. What's the differences between this and the GT, just the standard one, are that it's obviously more track oriented. It's not as nice to drive and things like that, so on your daily roads. So technically there's 350 and the 350R. They're almost the exact same vehicle. The only difference is, and sorry for the rain and noise and all that kind of stuff, can't help it. The main difference between the 350 and 350R is that the R gets certain things like you can take the AC out, you can take the rear seats out, you get carbon fiber wheels, so your basic kind of weight reduction stuff. But even with all that, because it's got a bigger motor and stuff like that compared to the regular GT, if I'm not mistaken, you're still hit with things like, and the wheels are a lot bigger and the tires are a lot bigger. It still, if I'm not mistaken, sits at 3,700 pounds, if from what I read was correct. So that's actually almost identical to the regular GT weight, but that must have meant that they added a lot and they're still able to shed quite a bit, so they kept it in the same range, but they did give it even more power, and its 0 to 60 time is now 3.5 seconds, so really good. And when you get upgrade to the GT350R, you get better things like you get waiting for downforce, you get better suspension, you can get your carbon fiber wheels, seat delete, all that kind of stuff. And I don't know how many of you have ever been in the rear seat of a Mustang. It's already not much of a seat, right? It's a 2-door sports car, so I mean, I'm pretty sure my back seats are bigger, and yeah, so, and I have a 2-door, but there's just, if you're going for race car, might as well go full race car, right? I'm sure you lose things like air conditioning, but for a lot of people that really want to do this, now not everybody wants to do this, but like if you really want a race car, you're willing to make the sacrifice. And I feel like the GT350R actually seems like it's almost a new vehicle for a lot of people, but it's been out for a very long time. It was actually out before the GT500. So back in 1965, the first GT350 was released, and then in 1967, GT500. So even though it's only 2 years, GT350 has actually been out for a lot longer, but it had such a like down period where they didn't make one for a while that it almost basically went away. And with a new generation coming in, they released a new car. It's like, wow, look at this cool new Mustang. Well, they've been making it for quite some time, but they did a good job at reviving it. They did make a really solid car, very quick, everything like that. Still holds the same new Mustang body line for 2015 and onwards. Still looks good. But what will be interesting is, so for vehicles like a base Stingray Corvette, which is a really good car, track car kind of thing, right? When you upgrade to your Z06 option, you get a supercharger. And that bumps your 400-ish horsepower all the way up to 650 actually, my bad. Now that's a big gain. So if Ford decides to use the same motor they currently have for the GT350 into the GT350R, which I'm not exactly sure if the GT's motor and the 350R motor are the exact same, or if they're just tuned a little bit differently. Better, basically. We'll have to see. I'll have to see. I'll get back to you guys later with that. If it is the same 5.0. But they're making 526 horsepower, so Chevrolet was able to gain roughly 200 and some change horsepower just by adding their supercharger. And then if you go up to the ZR1, you get all the way up to 755, which is another 100 gain. And of course a little bit extra here and there, because I know it doesn't make a flat 400 horsepower. But since Ford is coming out the GT500, hopefully, if they use the same GTR or GT350R platform, if they could increase that motor by 500 using their flat plane crank V8 in the current GT350R, they'd be sitting at 826 horsepower, which would be astounding. Which would be where I believe right where I think they kind of need to be. Just with everything coming out with such crazy numbers, that car needs to make a lot of power to be a competitor. I guess, I don't know, maybe Ford can do something interesting. The GT350R is a major competitor for a lot of vehicles like the Camaro Z01 and stuff like that, so, and it doesn't make near as much power. So maybe they are able to work something out there. And somewhat interesting is GT350R is still available with a manual transmission, which actually, as of last night, found out that for your, I'll call it like your average day car makers and stuff like that, nothing too crazy, no like one-off cars and things like that would be in this list, but there are only 49 cars left in the world that still come with manuals. Pretty much every brand has one, but some of them only have one or two. This list kind of cheated and said that, like, for I know it was Hyundai, I said the Hyundai Elantra and then the Hyundai Elantra S both have a manual version, which that's the same car, but oh well, we'll give it to them. Yeah, manual's almost kind of gone, so it'll be interesting to see if the GT350 or GT500 is allowed with manual, or if they're just going to stick with the automatic, which is very possible. But if they do an automatic, then it's got to be faster than the Hellcat's transmission, which this is a good, interesting video to watch. Find someone with a Hellcat and doing their shift points, how fast their paddles shift compared to some other vehicles. Like you could do something if you want to have fun, do it against a Toyota Camry where you pull paddle, wait, there it shifts. So, and of course, the Hellcat actually does a very good job. Their, I think ZF80 or something, I think is what the transmission's called. Their 8-speed is really quick for a conventional single plate transmission. Sorry, that was hard to get through. It's not gonna be fast as dual clutch, which is, I mean, you even think about touching the pedal, it's already shifted for you, up or down, doesn't matter. So Hellcat is probably the best conventional one. So if they do want to continue and everything, they're gonna need to find a way to keep that fast. Or who knows, maybe they'll say fuck it and just go with a manual. I mean, they've been turning their industry upside down the last couple of days or weeks. So who knows? But GT350R still comes with manual. Maybe that's something that's more required for track driving. Sadly, I don't have as much experience, but it makes sense. I like it, but I also like the GT. Hopefully, GT500 will be something cool. But if you're looking for a track-oriented car and you want a Mustang, there is a very good option. Very quick, very low to ground, big tires, and another good idea would be to look up videos of its flat plane crank V8. Flat plane crank means so you have your crankshaft, or if you've ever seen a crankshaft, usually it goes lobe, right in front of it, lobe, 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 all the way left, down, upright. And for it to be flat plane, it only has it on one plane, so just up and down, so they just are staggered, just going like this all the way down the crankshaft. Now that is gives for a much more aggressive noise, we'll put it. It sounds like no other V8, but it's still very good. So if you are looking for one of the best sounding cars, GT350R is definitely in that range for you. And I think that does it for it. So, and we'll also be comparing it to the Camaro ZL1 next, so that'll be good. ZL1 1LE, Chevrolet's, I'll call it moderate big track car, since we also have the ZR1 on this list. But as always, we're going to end it there. If you have a vehicle you'd like us to talk about next, or something we'd like to talk about on Patch Notes, since that's open as well, and any detailing related things, comment, and as usual, like, subscribe, and have a good day.